if you vote for it, fine. We're not gonna be a problem. I mean, we might want to have a graduated income tax. See, my sense is the problem with inequality isn't the Kobe Bryant. He's doing something. You know, you can see what he's doing. When he stops doing, when he retires, he's not going to be making that money anymore. The capitalist gets the money. You can retire. You don't do anything anymore. The investment just keeps accumulating. It keeps compounding. It keeps doubling every 12 years or whatever, depending on the interest rate. That's what you want to break. You want to break that stability. Just make money with your money. You're going to make money by the stuff you're doing. It could be a lot of money. I don't have a problem with that. And if your coworkers say, "Great, you're worth it," fine. Oh, I did not know that. That's interesting. Really? Huh. That's interesting, because I was visited Cuba quite a few times during the 90s and talked about this sort of thing, so maybe they're catching on. Right. Again, those are specific. I mean, first of all, my sense is I don't understand natural resources should be publicly owned, shouldn't they? I mean, nobody created those kinds of things. So that seems to be a separate kind of socialist argument, that goes way back. Intellectual property is another issue. And the point of intellectual property is to encourage people to invent these things so they can have enough payoff for a certain period of time, make it worth their while investing all the time and energy. Some version of that may make sense. On the other hand, one thing I would argue, intellectual property to poor countries, that ought to be free. I mean, in fact, when you're thinking about what rich countries can do for poor countries, I mean, we really need to think in material terms, what do they need from us? Okay? And just saying more money is not the answer. Money isn't doing it. But intellectual property, the technologies that we might have that might be useful for people, absolutely that should be free of charge. Okay? So now Joseph Stiglitz has suggested, instead of the intellectual property we have now, just a number of big prizes. The companies that come up with the new inventions get some kind of big prize instead, some kind of financial incentive. It makes sense you need some financial incentives, but how those work to be optimal in terms of society at large, rather than just optimal for the people that have cornered the market on that. That's not an issue of principle so much as a pragmatic question of how to sort those out. Okay, now what I would say is, now depends. I mean, in certain cultures and certain societies, at certain local levels, yeah. I mean, because there is something right about the sense we shouldn't be just doing things because of the money. Okay, in fact, that's not the point. But on the other hand, if we're talking about taking a complex society that's producing millions of items and deciding how much is going to be produced by whom, by where, by I like to think about it, and in my earlier book, Against Capitalism, I got a section about the transition to communism. I thought, socialism is supposed to be a stage to something higher than that, and I talk about the withering away of money, not in the sense that it literally sort of disappears, but its meaning, it becomes unimportant, Yeah, you got to pay, when you go to the grocery store, you got to pay, you got to make a decision. So that kind of helps people keep track of what it is people are buying and how much they need to produce, but it no longer becomes the main motivation, because what you really, this from each according to ability to each according to need, right? Which that means you have good work. Your real motivation is because you like the work you're doing. You feel like you're making a contribution. You're doing something meaningful, and it's nice you get paid. I mean, frankly, my model for ultimate communism is being a tenured university professor today. It's like I don't worry about money. I got enough money. I love my work. You know, partly I feel like I can't believe they're paying me to do this and go out and talk to people, try to make them all Marxist. You know, this is too good to be true. You know, but having a sense in which your motivation, the paycheck, is not why you're doing these kinds of things. But it's important to have economic security. You know, not having to worry about, is there going to be enough money to pay, So I like to think that we would evolve in that direction, more leisure, like Keynes is talking about. Love of money becomes detestable. Leisure time matters now, and taking advantage of those people that can take in direct enjoyment in things. I mean, that's the idea. Dinner and have some more questions. No, how does it, no, that's a good question. Because that issue of scaling back is not going to be easy, okay? And just saying in a democratic society, say we're all going to vote, to consume half what we did before, that's a difficult question, and that's going to be difficult. I mean, that's not going to just go away if you have an economic system like that. That's still going to be something. How to have a movement that can sort of, first of all, here's one of the things. You can actually talk about cutting back consumption without it if you have these other institutions in place, if you have some democratic control over investment. So cutting back consumption means, well, people aren't buying this stuff anymore, so the workers there are now out of jobs, okay? So under capitalism, there's going to be this resistance because it means I'm going to lose my job as much as I may like your goals. But if you have a system that says, well, okay, and we will get another job for you, we will guarantee you a job, and we're going to shrink the work week so we can share, we're going to cut back consumption, but at the same time we're going to give people more leisure instead, if we can figure out those kinds of trade-offs. But that would take a political movement, that's making those cases, doing experiments. You're seeing them going on already, slow food, slowing down the pace of life, consuming less as individuals. Individuals consuming less doesn't change the overall dynamic, but it does indicate a role. It's a different kind of conception of what it means to have a good life, and that's got to become a lot more, that's got to become a dominant conception if you're going to have democratic votes about these kinds of things. So it doesn't solve the problem, it's a real problem, but I think the problem is solvable in a democratic economy in ways it's just not solvable in capitalism.
Thank you.